Hello and welcome back to another Warhammer 3 video we have for today. Good news, Creative Assembly is finally giving us some info on the next update and more details on the plan for this year's DLC, as well as how the updates are going to be classified as from now until the release of Lords of the End Times. And all this info came from the Discord and subreddit, so if you want to see that yourself, I'll have it linked down below. So this next hotfix was 7.04, but now has been changed to 7.1 with a planned release date of February 10th, so about a week from now. This was changed because the amount of fixes Creative Assembly needed to do, so instead of just fixing a couple things, it aims to fix some of the newer bugs and major ones, and for the future we'll be seeing more patches than hotfixes, since the term will only be used when a new update's sole focus is aimed at fixing high impact issues in the wake of a new release of an update or DLC. We will see the full patch notes on the 9th, basically the day right before it comes out, but we do know a few of them. For example, Nurgle army abilities that weren't spreading now spread like they should. The Cockatrice is unavailable to recruit even if you had the DLC for the Beastmen, so I'm glad it was fixed, but this type of problem should have been solved a little sooner in my opinion, since it affects the whole unit from a DLC you paid for. Then we have some issues related to switching dances as the Mask of Slaanesh, so hopefully when using their unique mechanics this will function properly. Glad this is getting addressed because they are a new lord, so it'd be a shame for new players to try them out, just for them not to work properly. Then we have the expansion stance does not give the Dragonship Force a replenishment modifier while at sea. I have been playing Sea Lord Aslan a lot, I do think I've noticed that happening, but it only worked for like that one turn and then be fine the next, but it's still good that it's being fixed. And the last one we know is the crashing happening every time you load into a new campaign with Malachi and the Mask of Slaanesh in co-op, which then has to be one of the weirdest bugs I've ever heard of, since it only happens with those two lords in specifically co-op. So these aren't all the fixes of course, just the ones we know about so far, but overall I'm glad some of these bugs are finally getting fixed soon, and hopefully the rest of the patch is just as good. And the edit for this post is quite funny, since they had to clarify that these weren't issues to expect from the new patch, since they kind of didn't explain that they're getting fixed, kind of set a list, so it was kind of funny, people just assuming they're just going to take away like the Cockatrice for some reason. The rest of the post goes over some of the plans of the future regarding how updates work, and this year will be focused on finally hammering out some major bugs in the game, as well as making the core gameplay experience much better. So patches will be less frequently include new content or quality of life improvements and feature overhauls, but only for the time being, with these instead arriving in larger updates to the game. So any free units or faction rework or new mechanics to old factions won't be in the smaller updates. And if you remember when the Tomb Kings and Lizardmen got some new updates last year, instead of that update now being in between a major DLC for the time being, stuff like that's going to be now tied to the bigger updates like the DLC, for example when you go from 7.0 to 8.0 with the Lords of the End Time DLC. But Creative Assembly did say they're doing this so the team can have more time to work on Lords of the End Times and the End Time update as a whole, since it will have more free content as well. It does seem like CA is trying their best to not delay another DLC, since the last one, Tied to Torment, took a whole year. They also clarified reworks to old factions are still in the works and are coming. Vampire Counts is going to be one of them, so I can imagine there's going to be a couple more they just haven't talked about yet. Another major fix the team is working on is the campaign AI armies that still stack. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's a prevalent problem in many people's campaigns. The initial fix has helped but not solved the problem completely, and the team will continue working hard on it and will let us know of any changes to the AI before an update comes out, trying to fix the problem for good. And they even say themselves, thanks for bearing with us with this long-term headache. This is probably one of the biggest problems facing the game since it came out, so I'm glad they aren't just throwing tape over it and leaving it be, but it does seem like they generally want to fix the problem no matter how long it takes, so good on them. And for another major issue CA is looking at solving is the siege battles, and that they say that they have seen many people ask about the sieges, and then the next few weeks we're going to be getting more info about it. I'm really excited to hear this news since I quite enjoyed the siege beta, and hopefully it's the actual update to fix sieges, but if it's not and just another beta, I'd be fine with that too. But at this point I think it should be fixed before the big DLC this year, or at least before 2026 is over. Then to get ahead of some of the comments, CA said that large scale reworks aren't off the table, cough cough Bretonia, and that they'll still aim for those updates, but it'll have to wait until after summer, which seems like no matter what, they're trying to get the DLC to come out on time, since anything big like updates or reworks wise will be taking a back seat for now, and to me I'm kind of fine with it, since after the big DLC we can expect the bigger updates in between like we used to. Then the last part of the post just goes over how all the new terms work for the updates and hotfixes. Hotfixes are urgent fixes to high impact issues introduced in the most recent update or patch, so you'll only see these when there's a new major problem, not like 2 or 3 weeks after the issue has already been discovered. Then patches are primary bug fixes, balancing adjustments, may occasionally be larger quality of life improvements, and new or refurbished content. So basically we might get a couple of free units with some updates to a faction, but nothing big enough to changes to be an entire rework. An update is a substantial update accompanying paid DLC content, likely FLC content, race reworks, feature overhauls, quality of life improvements, bug fixes, and battle balancing. So the update is just whenever a DLC comes out, not really much has changed with it, so just like the 7.0 to 8.0 kind of thing. Just really the hot fixes and patches are changing, but do remember this is not a permanent thing, only until the Lords of the End Time DLC comes out this summer. Overall, I'm glad they seem to be very transparent with the plans this year. It also seems like Creative Assembly is trying really hard to meet that summer deadline, and we still have the first character pack to come out for Cathay. We are going to be getting more about that pretty soon though in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully with the extra time they have by changing up how the game is updated, there won't be any delays this time like the last DLC. And one thing I want to add, I also believe the devotees of Slaanesh will be getting their new look during this patch. Since it's not confirmed, I don't want to say, 100%, but I do believe, because they did bring this up during the live stream for Slaanesh before the DLC came out, that they would be getting their new look in the next update. Again, I'm just going to assume they meant patch, because as we know, updates are kind of the, 7.0 to 0.8, so it's kind of the bigger ones. So again, nothing confirmed, but I think we're going to be getting the new look pretty soon. And with that all said, that's going to wrap up the video. I will be covering the patch notes once we see them next week. Let me know down below what you'd like to see out of the update. Maybe something, maybe for units, maybe some, makeovers for other units. I have more videos in the works like always, so I appreciate the patience for more. I know it has been a while, but with work and life, it's all been crazy, as you guys know. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. It lets me kind of, make more videos, kind of lets me going off this path. And again, thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.